Hello, I'm Mike Morales, Chairman of the Redondo Beach Economic Development Council, and I'd like to welcome you to the Starting a Business in Redondo Beach webinar, presented by the Redondo Beach Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau and Donald Ford, PhD. Today, our learning objectives are going to be explaining your business clearly to others, organizing the business as a legal entity, obtaining all necessary licenses and permits to operate your business, creating an organization and operational plan, defining your markets and products, and creating a 1 to 3 year financial plan. Our facilitator today is Don Ford. Don is president and owner of Training Education Management LLC, a 15-year training and management consulting firm in Redondo Beach, California. His consulting clients include Toyota Motor Sales, Nissan Motors USA, U.S. Marine Corps, Orange County Transportation Authority, Amgen, Boeing, and SCORE, among others. He has worked in the fields of management and human resource development for 25 years, including HR management positions at Southern California Gas Company, Magnavox, Allied Signal, and Texas Instruments. He is currently a SCORE counselor at the Redondo Beach Chamber. He has worked in Asia, Middle East, and Latin America, and he holds a BA and an MA in history and a PhD in education, all from UCLA. He has published 35 articles and 4 books on topics in training, education, and business. His books include In Action, Designing Training Programs, and Bottom Line Training, Performance-Based Results. Welcome to the webinar, Don.
I really appreciate that wonderful introduction and looking forward to presenting this webinar today. We're going to be talking about all the aspects of starting a business, and I want to preview that for you now by showing you the key elements that we will be discussing. First, we'll talk about how do you describe your business and how do you come up with a mission and a business model that makes sense. Secondly, we'll be talking about how you actually go about creating the legal structure for your business, getting all the necessary licenses and permits required to operate your business legally. Third, we'll talk about where to locate your business. Whether you want to have a retail establishment or whether you want to be home-based, and all of the different issues involved there. Next, we'll talk about the management team that you assemble to help operate your business, including, of course, you, the entrepreneur, and anyone else who may be assisting you. Fifth, we'll talk about the products and services that you're going to be offering to customers, how to define those products and services, how to ensure that you have some competitive advantage with other providers of the similar products and services. Six, we'll talk about the marketing plan for your business. How do you go about reaching out and finding customers and bringing them into your business? And then finally, we'll get into the financial plan for starting a new business, including startup expenses, locating sources of capital, and operating the business as a profit and loss operation. So as you can see, we have many topics we'll be covering. We will be dividing the webinar today into 2 parts, and we will also be taking questions from the audience. So if you have a question, please let us know, and Mike will be helping us field those questions. Okay, so with that, let's get started. So the first step in developing a business is to write a business plan. As you can see from this famous quote by Alan Lycan, a famous author, failing to plan is planning to fail. And I think all of us can think back to some time in our life where we went into some business or some plan or some operation without a plan, and we know how badly that can turn out. Specifically, why write a business plan? First, you can really accelerate your business success if you have a roadmap to follow. Secondly, it's important to have a business plan in order to raise capital from investors. Investors are not going to give you the time of day, let alone their hard-earned money, unless you have a clear plan on how you're going to succeed. Thirdly, it's important to have a business plan so you can explain your business to potential partners and even to your customers. Many business people have a great idea somewhere, a kernel of an idea in their mind, but they can't really succinctly and clearly describe it to others, and so therefore they can't get other people excited about their business. And finally, and perhaps this is to Alan Lakin's point, you can save yourself a lot of costly mistakes by having a good plan. Many businesses do succeed without plans, but they often go through a terrible period of trial and error that can be extremely costly. And the statistics on business success are not all that encouraging. Most businesses, in fact, the majority, fail within the first 2 or 3 years, and the primary reason they fail is because they didn't have a very clearly defined business plan to start with. So for all those reasons, we need to have a plan. So let's now see what goes into the plan. The first element that we need is a concise explanation of the business mission and model, a description that can be boiled down to less than a page and can easily be communicated to others. Next, we need a good management team, and specifically the plan should include biographies of key management team members, investors, board members, and of course the entrepreneur themselves would be at the center of that management team. So this gives people confidence that the people running this business know what they're doing. Third, we need to clearly indicate what products and services we're offering, what customer segments we're serving, and what customer needs that we intend to address. Next, and very closely associated, we need to identify who our direct competitors are and how we intend to compete, what are key competitive advantages that we may have that they don't. Next, the marketing plan describes how we're going to penetrate and serve our target market once we've identified that. And then finally, we need a very strong financial plan that covers both current financing to start up the business, as well as typically we would also lay out financial projections for at least the next 1 to 3 years of the business. So those are the elements. Let's now delve into them in a little more detail, starting with company mission and business model. So a company mission states the purpose for your business, but we also need to give a quick profile to our customers and investors. Things like how long have you been in business, what's your legal structure, where are you located, what's the history of the business. All of that can be done in fairly short order. Next, we need to describe the mission of the business. What's its purpose? And what vision and goals does this business have? Now, one thing that many entrepreneurs get confused about is they think that mission is just about making money. Well, that's true. Every business exists to make money. But making money in and of itself is not a mission. A mission should address a larger purpose than just lining your pocket with money. The mission should also describe how you are fulfilling a need of your customers, how you are serving some larger social purpose than just simply lining your pocket with money, which of course you hope to do. But keep in mind that customers are attracted to businesses who have some noble purpose in mind, and they like to be associated with that. And then finally, the business model, which really describes how's your company going to make money? What are your unique qualifications? What's your business philosophy? Every business needs a model that drives their approach to making money and being successful. So that's your mission and business model. Now, let's look at an example. I'm going to use my own business, Training Education, as an example. And I'm going to invite you to just take a moment and read this sample business description. You'll see it's only a paragraph. As you can see, this simple description describes the type of business that I am. It shows that I'm an LLC. It shows where I'm located. It shows how long I've been in business. It also has a very clear mission statement focus on helping companies maximize the performance of their people. So notice the mission addresses the customer's need, not just my need to make money. And it then proceeds to describe in more detail how I work and the business model, including working on project, time and material, and retainer basis. And it offers a guarantee to customers who use my services. So you can see how you can come up with a sample business description in just a few sentences, that brief description is what will help attract customers and investors to your business. Okay, let's move to the next step. Step 2 is selecting a business location. This is very, very important for a number of reasons. One is customers have to be able to find you, obviously. But in addition, businesses must meet zoning requirements to ensure that they are operating legally on the site they choose. So it's very, very important before you sign any lease or invest in a particular location that you contact the planning department at Redondo Beach City Hall to confirm that the zoning is correct for your new business address. The Redondo Beach Planning Department is happy to provide information to you in advance of any purchase or lease to make sure that you've chosen a location that is compatible with your business purpose. And you'll see the address and phone number there on the screen to refer to. So don't ever purchase or lease a piece of property until you have verified that, in fact, it is zoned for the purpose you're using it. Now, many of you also want to have a home-based business these days. There are many home-based businesses in Redondo Beach, and there are also zoning rules around what kinds of businesses can operate in a home, and you also must have a license to do that. We'll talk about that a little later, but just be aware that no matter what kind of business you are, whether you're a storefront or an office building or even working from your home, you do need to have proper licenses in order to operate. Step 3 is registering the business as a legal entity. So this is the next thing to talk about. Your business, in order to be legal, has to be registered with local, state, and in some case federal agencies to make it a legal business. Now, the easiest way to start is with a sole proprietorship, or what we often call a DBA, or doing business as. It's fairly simple to set this up, and many new businesses start this way. If it's just you, sole proprietor, obviously, is just a single owner. A second alternative that many people start with is a general partnership. A general partnership, of course, involves 2 people, or could be as many as 3. Partnerships are usually limited to 2 or 3 individuals. So this is, let's say, you and your spouse decide to start a business. So you would be a general partnership. Or you and your best friend from high school decide to start a business. General partnership. A lot of the same rules that apply to DBAs also apply to general partnerships. Fairly easy to get them up and running. On the other hand, the problem with these 2 forms of doing business is that you are personally liable for all of the debts and obligations of that business. And so that means that any assets that you own, including your home, your car, or your retirement fund, whatever assets you own, are potentially at risk if your business goes bad and somebody sues you. So that alone often prompts people to want to organize themselves into a corporation. So let's talk about 2 common forms of corporation for small business. The first is the Limited Liability Company, or LLC. You'll see that. I'm sure you've probably seen LLC. You've seen it on my business. That's how I'm organized. It's a very popular form for small businesses. Why? Well, it has a number of advantages. First, it does limit your liability, as the name implies. Your liability for any debts of your businesses are limited only to the assets of the business. So that means somebody can't come and sue you and try to take your house away or your car or your other possessions. So that's a huge advantage. The other advantage of the LLC is that it's relatively easy to operate from a tax point of view because you pay your taxes as part of your individual return, and you simply produce a Schedule C that shows the income and the expenses from the business. So it's relatively easy to operate. However, there are rules that we'll talk about later that require you to register with both the state of California as well as the federal government. So it is a more expensive form, but it provides protection. Finally, we have the S Corporation, subchapter S. S corporations are also used by small businesses, but unlike the limited liability company, they allow up to 100 shareholders. So they allow for a larger scale business. If, for example, you think you might someday want to issue stock in your business, or if you intend to have many people involved, up to 100 investors or shareholders, then the S Corporation is a better choice. Now, on the other hand, the S Corporation is more expensive to operate. And it does, in some cases, involve double taxation because you have to report your profits from the business separately and prepare a separate tax return. Then if you pay yourself a salary, you still have to pay taxes on the individual income. So there's this double taxation problem that can happen with S corporations. Now, which form is right for you? Well, only you, an attorney, and a certified public accountant can tell you for sure. I would suggest that you read up on these different forms and seek expert advice to find out what makes sense for your operation. But if you're not really sure if you're going to stay in business or you have limited resources, then certainly the DBA is probably the way to start. You can always start as a DBA, and then later you can convert to a corporation once your business is up and running or once you have the need to protect assets. If you have no assets, there's nothing to protect, right? It's once you start to accumulate wealth that you really need the protection of a corporation. Okay, that's step 3. Now, let's talk about the process for actually getting a DBA registered. This involves really 2 steps. First step is you need to go down to the LA County Clerk's office to register the new DBA. You're going to file what's known as a fictitious name statement with the county, and that registers your business. Now, the county will also assist you in determining if your business name is already in use. Because if somebody's already got the name of your business, you probably don't want to use that name. Otherwise, you're going to create confusion in the marketplace. So they can assist you with that, and you will see we have given you the address, phone number, and even the website lacounty.info provides a good deal of information, including, I think, the forms that you need to complete. So that would be your first step, is get yourself registered. The next step is then to publish the name of the business in a local newspaper. That fictitious name statement has to appear, and it needs to appear in 4 weeks within a local newspaper, and we've given you the names of the 3 local newspapers in the South Bay, any one of which will assist you in publishing your fictitious name statement. This simply tells the world, hey, we're open for business. And by the way, it also allows anyone who might object to your name, who might say, hey, I've already got that name, it allows them a chance to come forward and make known that they've already used the name. So at any rate, you can talk to any one of these 3 local newspapers. They would be very happy to set you up with that service. And if you'd like to get some more information about filing as a DBA, would like to draw your attention to a website called CalGold. It's calgold.ca.gov. And this is a site that's been assembled by the state of California to assist small business owners in getting businesses up and running. It has a lot of great information, so I would recommend you check that out. Okay, so that's getting the business actually registered. Let's now turn to step 4. Once the business is up and running and registered, you will need, depending on the type of business you're operating, you will need a number of different forms and permits from both the U.S. government and the state of California. Most notably, the IRS and the California Franchise Tax Board are suddenly going to be very interested in you, in your business, because they are expecting you're going to make lots of profits and therefore pay lots of taxes. So let's talk about each one of these items. First one is the Internal Revenue Service. Once a new business has been registered and set up, you will need to obtain an Employer Identification Number, or EIN. That is a separate tax number that you use to report the income and pay taxes on the business, separate from your own Social Security number. In addition, the IRS offers a Business Person Startup Kit. You can find that on their website at irs.gov, and you'll find that that will provide lots of helpful information in complying with the federal tax rules. Now, if you become a corporation, if you incorporate it as LLC or an S corporation, then you must register with the California Secretary of State. The registration includes filing paperwork, and it also includes paying a fee. The state collects a fee from every corporation, as whether you're operating or not, whether you're making money or not. As long as you are still a legal corporation, you must pay an annual fee. Next, for those of you who are retailers or who might be purchasing items for repair or use in business, you must obtain a State Board of Equalization resale permit. This essentially allows you to buy items wholesale without paying the sales tax, but it also obligates you to collect sales tax on those items that you sell retail to customers. And so that would affect those of you that are actually selling something to the public. Now, if you intend to hire employees, then there's another agency of the state, the Employment Development Department. They are in charge of setting and regulating labor standards for employees and ensuring that your employees are being paid according to the laws of the state. In particular, there are issues around payroll taxes, disability and unemployment insurance that has to be taken into account. And please, if you plan to hire an employee, make sure you check with your Employment Development Department. Again, they'll be very happy to provide you with information about how to comply with payroll tax withholding and how to make sure that insurance payments are being made on behalf of your employees. And then finally, for those of you who plan to operate a business without employees, where only the owners are in the business, you will still need to obtain Franchise Tax Board requirements in terms of whether you need to withhold taxes or whether you need to pay corporate state taxes. So check with your Franchise Tax Board in Sacramento and make sure that you have all of the forms and all of the requirements met to operate as a business. Okay? So lots of different requirements to get going. And we've only talked about the federal and the state. So let's now come to the municipal level. In the city of Redondo Beach, every business that operates in the city needs a business license. And again, that applies to whether you're a brick-and-mortar business or whether you're home-based. Every business in Redondo needs to have a business license. In order to obtain that license, as you can see, there's a rather lengthy list of things required. We've created this as a kind of checklist for you. And I won't bother to read every single one of these, but as you can see, you need to have all of the permits in place before you even start to apply for the business license. So you want to make sure you've gotten your fictitious name, you've gotten your sales permit, you've gotten your incorporation, whatever you're going to do to create the legal structure. That has to be done first. Then you're ready to go down to the city, to the planning department, and providing all the information that you see here. They will then calculate the fee that's required to obtain your business license. Now, also, please note that if you are going to locate within a business improvement district in Redondo Beach, there will be an additional fee required to help support the efforts to improve business in those districts. Okay, so that's the City of Redondo Beach. And again, the City Planning Department will be very happy to assist you with any questions you might have. Please feel free to contact them by phone or stop by their office directly during working hours, and their staff are more than happy to assist you. Now, there are also some additional permits that may be required for specialized businesses. So let's talk about what some of those additional permits might be, depending on the type of business you have. First is a health permit from the LA County Health Department. Now, that health permit is only required if you're going to be serving food, or if, in fact, you are in the healthcare business and you're going to be providing care for patients. So check with your LA County Health Department for that. Next, business use and inspection. Through the City Planning Department, they handle issues such as zoning, parking, and making sure the building is safe for occupancy and for the purpose for which you're using it. So when you go down to get your business license, that's the time to talk to the city also about the particular location you plan to operate and any restrictions or inspections required to operate in that location. Next, we have fire inspection from the City Fire Department. Certain kinds of businesses may be required to undergo a fire inspection if there is some potential threat of fire or hazard going on. For example, businesses that have open flame that are cooking, for example, may need to pass a fire inspection to make sure that they are operating safely. Next, if you plan to serve alcohol at your place, and that is to customers, not to your board members, but for example, a restaurant planning to offer wine and beer or service, they need to have an alcohol beverage permit from the State Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. So do make sure you check on that if it's your intention to serve alcohol to customers. For those of you that are contractors, I'm sure you're aware contractors are licensed through the State Licensing Board, and you must indeed have a valid license in order to operate within the City of Redondo Beach. So that's true of anyone doing any kind of construction work within the city. Building permits through the City Building Division may also be required, particularly for new construction, if it is your intention to build a building, or if you're going to remodel an existing building and make substantial changes. Of course, you must obtain the proper permits and get that all approved by the city before you commence construction. There's also conditional use permits that are sometimes issued through the City Planning Department. An example might be, let's say, a noise variance permit. Maybe you plan to have a rock band playing at your establishment on the weekends, and your neighbors may not be rock fans, especially not hearing it all night blasting away. So you might have to go to the city, for example, and get a conditional use permit, and that permit might be issued for just a short period of time to ensure that you are not going to become a public nuisance. So that's just one example. Again, if you have any questions at all about conditional use permits, check with the City Planning Department. Finally, There may be some industry-specific permits required for certain kinds of businesses. For example, AQMD, the Air Pollution Agency in Southern California, regulates businesses that might emit air pollution. And there are businesses that also are regulated by various water districts if they're discharging wastewater or sewer water. So if you're in any of those situations, if you think you might be doing something that pollutes the air or the water in part of your course of your business, then you must check with those agencies and make sure that you have the proper permits. Okay, so with that...
All right. Thank you, Don. While we were speaking, we had a few questions from our listeners. Anne wants to know, can you go into more details about the differences between a DBA, an LLC, and an S Corp?
Sure. Thanks very much, Ann. Well, as I mentioned, DBA, or doing business as, is the easiest way to get started in business. It's relatively inexpensive and simple, but it does expose you to personal liability for any debts that the business might incur. And so, although it's simple and easy to start, it also leaves you exposed a bit to potential liability. The LLC is a very popular choice these days, the limited liability corporation, simply because it's relatively easy to operate, fairly low cost, and it provides the protections of a corporation, limiting your liability only to the assets of the business. So that's a very popular form, especially for smaller businesses. LLCs are usually limited to a small number of partners, say 1 to 3 people operating a business. If you get larger, then an S corporation might make sense. S corporations allow, as I mentioned I think earlier, allows you to have up to 100 shareholders. S corporations can actually issue stock in the name of the corporation. So they have more of the full benefits of a full C corporation, which is the way large businesses operate. On the other hand, the S corp is going to be more expensive, and because you have to prepare 2 sets of tax returns, one individually and one corporate, and you may find yourself double taxed on the profits that you're earning through the business. However, if you have any questions beyond these, please check with a certified public accountant or a tax attorney. They can certainly advise you in your individual situation.
All right, thank you. Steve asks, how do I set up payroll for my business?
Great question, Steve. Yes, if you're going to hire employees, you have to pay them. That's the law. The problem is that the payroll systems are often very, very complex, because not only do you have to calculate pay based on the rate you're paying, but you also have to make sure that you're withholding taxes, withholding and paying Social Security, paying unemployment, disability insurance, etc. So I would recommend that if you hire employees, you should also look into creating a payroll system for yourself, or perhaps outsourcing that to one of the many payroll services that exist out there. Banks often offer payroll services for small business. There are also online web-based solutions that are relatively low cost. But the point is, these payroll services, they make sure that your employees are being paid properly, and they make sure that all of this money is being deducted properly. Now, in addition, you can check with our local Chamber of Commerce, and we have a website that provides some very good advice on how to go about setting up payroll and what all the requirements are for that.
All right, Don, thank you. Okay, this one is from Ivy. She says, I'm opening a new restaurant in Redondo Beach, and I want to know if I have to be concerned about providing additional parking.
Great question, Ivy. Thank you. Yes, I'm glad you're thinking ahead. Yes, indeed, there are parking requirements for many commercial establishments within the city. The specific rules are actually listed on the city's website, so you can go there and find out for yourself. But just as a general rule of thumb, the city requires one parking space for every 4 seats in your restaurant. So the presumption, I guess, is that people would arrive together. So you have to have one parking space for every 4 seats, or another rule of thumb is doing it by square footage. They require one parking space for every 50 square feet of customer seating. So you will have to obviously then calculate the size of your business and the number of seats, and then you can determine from there whether you have enough parking available. If you don't, again, you will have to contact the city and talk to them about how to meet the requirement for parking, especially if you're in a location where parking might be scarce. Check with the city.
Okay, and finally, Jeff. He asks, I'm starting a home-based business. Are there any special permits I need to get?
Yes, Jeff, thanks for asking about that. Again, home-based businesses are a very popular alternative these days. And unfortunately, some entrepreneurs don't realize that even operating a business at home requires a license. So it's very important that you check with the city. And also, the city of Redondo Beach requires a home occupation permit for a home-based business. You can find that permit online, again, if you go to the city's website, or you can get that by visiting their office. Let me just say also that home-based businesses in Redondo are limited in terms of the scope and the nature of the business. For example, you're not allowed to have employees working in your home. You're not allowed to alter the home in any significant way to turn it into a commercial enterprise. You're not allowed to post signs out in front of your house advertising your business. So in essence, a home-based business has to operate within the context of a residential neighborhood. It can't look like it's some huge commercial enterprise sitting on a residential street. So again, if you have further questions, please contact the city, but do make sure that you obtain a business license for your home-based business, okay?
All right. Thank you very much, Don. At this time, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with part 2 of Starting a Business in Redondo Beach.